right, we'll start that over again. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the DuPage County Stormwater Management Committee for June 7th, 2022. There's been a request to allow remote participation from a couple of members under Section 7A of the Open Meetings Act. Pursuant to Section A of the Open Meetings Act, if a quorum of the members of the public body is physically present as required by Section 2.01, a majority of the public body may allow a member of that body to attend the meeting by other means if the member is prevented from physically attending because of 1, personal illness or disability, that would be member Desart; 2, employment purposes or the business of the public body; or 3, a family or other emergency, that would be member Zay this morning. Is there a motion to allow these two members
Second.
to participate pursuant to 7A of the Open Meetings Act? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Good morning, Chairman.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor Brummel. I apologize for not being able to be there in person today. I think this is the second meeting I haven't been in person in 20 years, so it takes a lot to get me away from our meetings, but I appreciate it. And again, I apologize for not being there. Good morning to everyone. Go ahead, roll call, please.
Desart,
Here.
Eckhoff, Garcia,
Here.
Hinterlong, Krajewski, Nero, Hojak, Police, Tornatori, Youssef, Zay.
Here. Thank you. I've been told we have public comment today. Kay McKean from Scarce. Good morning, Kay.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here today. I wanted to thank Sam Tornatori and Don Pachowski and Sheila Rutledge for helping us to present the water quality flag to the Addison Township Road District this last month. They did a tremendous amount of work with their champion Mike to earn the water quality flag as well as the earth flag. And the Village of Addison is following up this September with both of those. So thanks for helping attend that. Also, we're working now to kind of get people going to collect the cooking oil that takes place the Saturday after Thanksgiving. We have 10 permanent sites. We usually have 5 pop-up sites, but we'd like to have more towns help us participate to get that cooking oil, keep it out of our storm drains, to protect our water quality, and to keep it out of city drains for clogs, which also impacts our water quality. So if your city or township is interested, we're really excited to work with them, mostly in July, and get that started for next October and November. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kay. We have no other public comments. I do not have any chairman's remarks. With that, I'll move on to approval of the May 3rd minutes.
So moved.
Is there a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Move on to, we have no items on the consent agenda. Move on to the claims report. Is there a motion on the claims? Okay, we have a motion and a second. I can't hear, so I'm just going to wing it. Any questions on the claims? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have no budget transfers. Staff reports. Any question on staff reports? None? Okay. Is there a motion to receive and place on file the staff reports?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Move on to presentations. Sarah's going to give us a presentation on our municipal grant selection for our ARPA funding. I first want to thank our staff for all the efforts and hard work that they put into this. They had a great understanding with our water quality program, and they took it to the next level here for this funding with the ARPA money. And we can see we got a lot of participation from our municipal partners, and our staff really went through this and detailed it out and made sure all these projects were ARPA eligible. And this is going to be millions of dollars. It's going to help the entire county to help of flooding and water quality. So with that, Sarah?
Thank you, Chairman Zay. Good morning, everyone. While they get the presentation ready, I'll just give a quick intro. This presentation is a precursor to the first action item on the agenda, which is a staff recommendation for approval of the ARPA Municipal Grant Program. Our staff has gone, as Chairman Zay mentioned, stormwater staff has gone through a pretty robust, detailed review and set up a very strong program through the recommendation of this committee and through what has been mentioned through County Board and Finance Committee for what our elected officials were looking for out of a grant program. And so before I get into that, next slide, please, Joe, I do want to go through a little background and history as a quick refresher. As you may recall, the county received funding under the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, as I'll refer to for the remainder of this presentation, of approximately $180 million. That $180 million allocation was received by the county in two installments of roughly $90 million each. Next slide, please. As we were reading through all of the ARPA requirements, the federal government put a strong emphasis on stormwater infrastructure. And with that, stormwater staff aligned themselves to put forward a presentation to this committee as part of our FY22 budget. This slide that we're looking at was actually the slide taken from the FY22 budget presentation for what we were proposing for an ARPA grant fund that was presented in front of committee and then in front of the finance department last summer. That was in June of 2021 was our first presentation, followed through in another presentation in August. As we went through, we had requested $22 million of ARPA funds for stormwater infrastructure to be utilized by the county. The majority of that was $20 million related to infrastructure implementation. We broke that down into $9 million of county priority projects, $8 million of municipal grant funds, $2 million towards on-call construction. And so those are smaller projects that really are not cost efficient to put out consistent bids, maybe a $20,000 to $50,000 project. So instead we want to go out and, as we explained at the time, for one on-call contract, 1 to 2 on-call contracts to get maybe some stabilization, frame adjustment, pond cleanup projects addressed. And we will see that contract coming forward later this year. And yet in 2022. And then of course our township match program, which was also $1 million. And so that totaled $20 million, plus we had roughly $2 million for staff time for grant management and engineering and permitting fees. And so that was our entire allocation of $22 million. Next slide, please. And this is just an accounting of where we are as of last week. We have 7 projects. I know that map is a little hard to see on here. I can certainly email this presentation to everybody. We have 7 projects countywide that are currently underway. And you can see that they are spread out through different districts of the county where we are spending current ARPA funds as county priority projects, and 2 future projects that we have in the hopper. The reason we haven't started these projects yet is because we are waiting for potential federal funds from different grants or different banks of money where we can offset those ARPA funds and maybe use them for different projects down the way for either municipalities, counties, or townships. We also have, as mentioned, our outside programs that we went through. And as you can see, we are right on track with that spending of $22 million that we had asked for, putting it towards stormwater projects at the county. And so that's a little bit of a background and history of where we are today. And now moving forward with our municipal grant program. Next slide, please. I want to start out with the timeline of what we put forth for this grant program. We wanted to take our time and make sure we did a deep dive into what would work best for a grant program. And so we worked through as part of our 2022 budget preparation process, asking for permission for these funds. And once we were given tentative permission, we started working on developing a grant application. We worked with DuPage mayors and managers, our municipalities at the county, peer counties that were going through this same process, and other members of industry on what was the best application to put forward, as well as a grant process to work forward to make sure it was fair to all of the municipalities. In January, we worked with County IT to develop a website and application portal. So it was easy for everyone to submit, and all of the information was provided in one space. So all municipalities could find that information. In February, we notified all of the municipalities that the grant was going to be released. And then on February 24th, 2022, we officially released the Stormwater Municipal Grant Fund. We released it notifying all municipalities as well as DuPage mayors and managers to make sure everybody had a fair understanding of when the grant was released. The grant was open for nearly 60 days with proposals due on April 21st at 5 p.m. Once the proposals were in, staff worked to tally all of the information available and then go through the scoring matrix to determine how these projects ranked. Next slide, please. As you can see, we put together a project prioritization criteria, or a scoring matrix, that is up here on your right on the slide. We wanted the communities to know exactly how we were going to score their grants or all of the applications. So we put the information right in the grant, so they knew what metrics they needed to hit and how to score high for the program. As we started to evaluate our scoring, we obviously looked at things like what the ARPA requirements were, first and foremost, because if it didn't qualify for ARPA requirements, we couldn't move forward with it. We looked at what also ARPA looked at, or the ARPA or the federal government guidelines said for their high priorities, which is resilient projects, meeting the criteria of the EPA state revolving loan fund, and providing co-benefits. And by co-benefits, I mean that a municipality is working with either another municipality, a forest preserve, a park district, or even a township on a project to make sure that there's a global benefit to the project. And then we also provided some bonus credits. These are things that weren't necessarily required, but we believe that are in general a bonus to any project happening in the county. That's protection of critical facilities as defined by FEMA. Environmental justice areas, which is important to all of our federal projects and programs, and also inclusion of the project into a formally approved planning document. These were bonus points that we actually did see quite a few municipalities hitting in their application. Next slide, please. As we went forward with this application and through the website, we also had a frequently asked questions portal. And so if a community or a representative had a specific question, we would formally respond to that question and then post the question and the response in a tracking FAQ that was provided on the website, so everyone could see the question and response and have a fair understanding of what was going on with the grant. We received 31 applications for a total ask of 9.6 million of county ARPA funds. With those 31 applications, we found that we were looking at a total investment that municipalities were willing to put forth of $48.6 million of stormwater infrastructure spending in DuPage County. That's quite a bit of funding, as we all know, that municipalities were willing to essentially put their money where their mouth was. And so we were very pleased with what we were seeing. We had 18 municipalities countywide that submitted applications. And then we went through and evaluated the process, knowing that we did, of course, have to meet the ARPA criteria. 29 of the 31 projects either met the ARPA or DuPage County criteria. And of course, we are also limited to, as we were evaluating the scoring, limited to our funding allocation of $8 million. So as we went through, and in your packets, you see the scoring and ranking. The first thing we did, if anyone recalls, I certainly do, Member Krajewski had certainly spoken up during our grant process and said that he'd like to see how we broke everything down by county board district when we were looking to administer the funding. And so the first thing we did is organize all of the projects by county board district. And then we evaluated them through our scoring maintenance, or through our scoring matrix, and whether or not projects were shovel ready, and also our funding limitations. Next slide, please. And so what we have in our packet today is an action item of what staff is recommending for funding. We are recommending 26 of the 29 that projects that qualify for ARPA funding. We believe these 26 projects were also evaluated as shovel ready. The 26 projects involve 17 different municipalities, and all county board districts are represented within these 26 projects. The total funding ask is, as listed, just a little over $8 million. We think that we have room in our budget for that extra less than $1,000, over $8 million to address that. And there also may be some detail as we get down into our programs and projects and seeing that number may move up or down a little bit, but we are asking to move forward with this. Next slide. And so our next steps is that the first item on our agenda today is an action item to request approval to move forward with these projects. We would like to move forward with these projects and start working on working with the communities. So our step will be to notify all communities of their selection status. Some communities had projects that were recommended for funding, and maybe some projects that weren't. We'd like a follow-up meeting with those communities to explain to them why they were or weren't selected, and also discuss additional opportunities that may involve funding of projects that were not selected as part of this process. We will move forward with communities of selection as an official letter from the department, which they will likely be receiving either later today or tomorrow morning. And then request for a follow-up meeting to discuss terms of the IGAs. And then we will have to bring IGAs for final approval, which actually requires county board approval to move forward with any funding through this program. And so that's my presentation. That's what we did through our ARPA program. I am extremely proud and pleased with the work that staff did to bring this forward and to run such a clean process and really look at fairly distributing these funds countywide. But I will take any questions you have at this time. Mayor Brummel? Your mic.
Didn't it used to go on automatically?
I don't know.
At any rate, I want to compliment you on the process. Extremely thorough and well done. And it's come to be what I expect from staff here at Stormwater. You do this every single time. You look at things very, very carefully, make good decisions, and you have reasons given for the decisions that can be given to people so they understand how they're made. One of the things I think that's most gratifying about being on this committee is that the work that's done directly affects our communities in a positive way. I know specifically for the item that is included for Warrenville, I grew up in that neighborhood that's being affected. It was flooding 70 years ago. We've had limited resources to address that problem. Now we're going to be able to do that because of this ARPA funding. So again, this is money that goes into neighborhoods that affects people in a positive way. Your process is superb in terms of making those decisions, and I want to thank you for that. And I know the people in the neighborhoods that are involved are going to be very grateful when this is all done and the mess is cleaned up and the flooding is alleviated, or at least moderate. So thank you.
Thank you. We had a great staff team working on it. I can't take any of the credit. Member Krajewski? Mike?
Thanks for the presentation. You mentioned my name earlier, and then I think you ended your comments there with fairly distributed among the districts. Although when I looked at it, I think there was 3 districts that were close to $2 million in funding, and my district 3 had less than $500,000. So I'm not sure they were fairly distributed. But then my question is, were there other projects from District 3 that got submitted?
No.
No, that's a great question. And so
The answer is no to that one.
yes,
Okay,
the answer
so-
is no. And so District 3 was
Right.
fully funded on all of their qualifying applications,
Right.
which is actually was all of their applications.
So then my next question goes to the conversation we had last meeting here with regards to Park District funding, when we were about ready to do the same thing here with Park Districts, and several board members raised the issue that they didn't see projects from their own park districts.
Mhm.
And so we pushed that off, and members have been starting to call park districts up. Did we have any outreach to any of these communities? Because I know this goes back several years ago when I left as mayor, but they had just in Downers Grove, they had just as I was outgoing doing a big stormwater study, and they had $400 million worth of stormwater projects, which I can't imagine, and they implemented that stormwater utility over time. I can't imagine that's all been done. I can't imagine these towns, because I was recently with the Willowbrook staff talking about a TIF district, but they had some stormwater needs out around 83. So I can't imagine these people didn't have stormwater ready projects to submit.
I understand exactly what you're saying. And so I'm going to start with the Park District question. We specifically tailored this grant for municipalities that were receiving ARPA funds. However, as I mentioned in the presentation, providing co-benefits of including work that also benefited other areas was a huge bonus. And so 12 of our projects that we saw, so I think it was 40% of the qualifying projects included work within the park districts, including one of the Downers Grove submittals.
No, my question on the part is some board members said certain park districts didn't submit. So they were going back to call those park districts and say, submit to the program. That's why I only saw Darien and I forget the other one that was up there, but I can't imagine that the Downers Grove and Westmont and Clarendon Hills, those communities did not have stormwater ready project. I don't know why they didn't submit. But you tell me that the only ones you got were fully funded. So that's my thing that's going to happen when I leave here is I'm going to reach out to those municipalities and figure out why they didn't have it. As certain board members, why we pushed this off the park district, they went and called some of the park districts now about submitting for our ARPA program. Why they didn't do it, I don't know. You know, I did the same thing with my park districts. In my district, I was calling them to ask them to submit, i.e. Downers Grove decided not to. I mean, I don't know why, but I mean, I tried getting them to do that. So I'm going to be here, but I just want to know, one, sounds like you funded all 4 of them. And 2, the other ones, all the other communities in my district didn't submit.
Correct.
And did we have any outreach to them?
We
Or
did
just,
outreach
here's the
through
form?
mayors and managers as well as through our municipal engineers group. We wanted to run a clean process. And so with that, none of our staff was allowed to have conversation about any details of our projects, except for common blanket conversation of this is out there, please move forward with it. Our staff has brought it up several times, as well as press releases put forward by Chairman Zay and our committee.
I mean, we saw the same thing with allocation to townships last cycle under CARES. You know, we had certain towns just didn't submit anything.
Correct.
And I just don't understand. I mean, I think we need to do a better job of, I know we give it out there to people, but it seem like they need to be helped through the process because they don't understand. All right, I got my answer that I need.
Sure.
I can go back and check my town.
Sarah, if
The
I,
project was great. I mean, the scoring, everything else is great, and maybe
yeah, Sarah,
I'm still advocating for more funds for you too. If you can do any more, let me know.
We will.
right.
Chairman?
Sarah, if I can jump in, you know, a part of this was they had to be shovel ready and they had to be done in a certain amount of time. So, I mean, they have to be already done engineering. I mean, they can't, I mean, I think that's what excludes a lot of people. With the other ARPA funding, people are using that for payroll, for other items. This is basically for shovel ready projects that people are ready to go this year to get it going. So that might have been an issue. I can't say for sure, but it might have been an issue with some of our municipal partners that they're just not ready to go. And again, if we get through this first round, Brian, and I agree with you, and we can possibly do a second round if we find out that we have more projects out there that people can get done in the next, you know, 2 or 3 years that meet this criteria. We can obviously go back to the board and ask for those funds.
Thank you, Chairman Zay. And really the most time consuming part of this process was setting it up. And so now that it is set up, if we do go out for a second round, it won't be nearly labor intensive on staff. And so it would be relatively easy to put back out. And so we would be interested if we got more funding to move forward with that. Member Deacon Garcia.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. You know, I've had some discussions with you, and I'm so excited to see these projects go through, you know, especially in District 2. I mean, a couple of them are in my neighborhood and they've had repeated flooding in this area. So, you know, I'm very excited for these houses that have repetitive losses to not have that anymore. So that is a thrill to me. I think I've kind of got my answers to the questions that I asked you in terms of, I think they probably were not project ready, is what I'm thinking, is that what the ones that were not approved. So that's kind of got my answer on that. And I would be excited to see if we did have more funding come, that they would actually be able to reapply at that point in time. It does sound like they would be doing that, but again, I want a big thank you to you and your staff for doing this. I cannot say, I'm gonna thank you for the District 2 residents, who I see so many of them getting so many projects in here that are gonna help them out in so many different ways. So thank you so much.
Member Eckhoff.
I had a question that's sort of the reverse of Member Krajewski. It seems to me, I know the county does a great job with stormwater management. Every time there's a big flood or something like that, it seems like one of the news stations shows where all the flooding is, but it's not in DuPage. All the work you've done your department's done over the last 40 years. But I'm wondering, are we getting to the point where there's less projects on the east side of the county? Because that's where it seemed like we focused since the 80s. And as you know, because I introduced you to the mayor of Wheaton, he's got about another 18 projects that he'd like to do. We're only doing 2 here. And I know it's, all the different factors that you consider. I'm sure you did a good job with that. But is the east side of the county pretty much taken care of now, and we can move to the west side, or what's going on?
Certainly, we still experience flooding countywide. A lot of projects have been completed on the east side of the county. Some major flood control facilities have been completed there. What we've seen with a lot of these ARPA funds that are municipal funds are not regional programs, which is what we tend to do within our staff. These are more localized flooding areas. A lot of it is infrastructure rehabilitation or improvements, which is different than what we do. We do massive holes in the ground pump. This is installing new storm sewers to get areas relieved of their flooding and provide some detention for that. So we are still seeing it countywide, but we are also seeing a larger need towards the central and west side of the county, and we are working to address that both in our planning documents that we're doing for our own department, as well as with some of the flooding and flood control programs that we're being asked to participate in.
Are any of the projects like taking out 1 or 2 houses and putting in a detention pond? Or?
None of the projects involve any of that. There was a project listed that requested a buyout, but the ARPA criteria specifically prohibits property buyouts without a flood control project. So that would have been a qualifying project if applied for. However, there were not any buyout to projects as part of the application.
I'm gonna we can go check for the next,
Certainly.
for the next round.
Member Dessert?
Oh, thank you so much for calling on me. Let me just lower my hand real quick here. First of all, going through and evaluating these 31 requests was a yeoman's work. So I congratulate the Stormwater Department. DuPage County Stormwater team does such a great job. So thank you for that. I had a whole page of questions, but your presentation was so comprehensive that I got them all answered. I just wanted to say and underscore really that the federal government, as you said, Sarah, put a strong emphasis on stormwater. So I would like to echo my colleagues there at the boardroom and say that Brad Wilson, the new executive director of the Naperville Park District, reached out to me May 27th. I forwarded that email to you. So it was after the April 21st deadline. But this tranche of money, or these grants, were only open to municipalities. So I wanted to let Chairman Zay know that I would be very much willing to advocate as well for additional dollars to help our park districts. I know Naperville has 7 larger projects that they need about $1 million to accomplish. And so I would be open, Mayor Zay, Chairman Zay, I'm sorry, I have COVID brain, to getting the board to give more money for these stormwater projects that affect the park districts. That's it. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you, Member Dessert. Any other questions before? Oh, Member Krajewski.
Did you mention that one project wasn't funded because we couldn't acquire the property because of the ARPA restriction?
The ARPA guidelines specifically prohibit a standalone buyout without a project associated with it.
Okay, did we have one that didn't?
We did have one project that didn't qualify that submitted just for a buyout. We're actually going to reach out to that community and discuss alternative ways of funding that initiative.
Yeah, because we have 10 million in non-ARPA. We have 10 million in reserves. We have plenty more in reserves. It's kind of it can be used for that.
I like the way you think, Brian.
Oh, well, I mean, that was the reason why we did
Yeah.
it. I mean, so we don't have to do with restrictions, but we can do projects that are good for the community. So I mean, I don't know what that buyout one was, but I mean, I think we maybe should look at alternative fundings, or, you know, we're running huge surpluses right now too.
I agree. Our first step is to work with that community on getting a different federal grant for this buyout, and then also moving down the list to other ways to purchase the property.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would continue, because it sounded like it was a scored project. Was it in District 4 too? Was it in Grand District?
No, it wasn't in District 4.
Well, if we raise it with this comment tone, but I mean, I think we should do that. I mean, we can get the funding for it. It's not a problem. It's just a matter of which bucket it comes out of.
Certainly. Member Hinterlong? Oh, I'm sorry, your mic was on. I apologize. If there are no more,
As long as it's on, thank you very much for your considerations to our requests. Like Mayor Brummel said, it'll be deeply appreciated for the people that live in those areas. So thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And again, thank you to our municipal partners. Obviously, we know stormwater doesn't go by boundaries of municipalities or townships or the county. So I think this is the first step to get there. And I've heard a lot of discussion from our committee, and that we will be looking into getting additional funding here through other resources. And then again, if you have communities in your districts, you know, that did not put in or had questions, yes, we can always do a second round and talk to the board about that. So again, I want to thank staff, and this is our first step, and hopefully there'll be 2 or 3 more steps of more stormwater funding. So thank you. Hearing no other questions, we'll move on to the action items. Action item A, is there a motion? Staff is requesting approval. Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Chairman Zay, can I make a request? I apologize. I should have mentioned this in my
Oh, yeah, no, and before we go forward, some of these projects are time sensitive. So we might have to discharge committee on some of these. We will email the committee and let them know and take them right to county board, because some of these municipalities are already in the ground on these projects and are looking for the funds quickly. So as soon as we can get the IGAs done, if we don't have a committee, we might then just have to bring it to the full county board and just let the committee know what we're doing, and then discharge at county board. Is that good?
Scary when you read my mind.
Okay. Okay, do we get a vote? All in favor? Okay, opposed? Motion carries. There a motion on SM 23022, recommendation approval, intergovernmental agreement to DuPage County and Downers Grove for Mogul Drive Water Quality Project for amount of $16,687.
Motion.
Motion is second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. There a motion on SMP 17822, approval of contract issued to Atlas Engineering for on-call surveying for stormwater management for an amount not to exceed $70,000. Motion is second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion on 2022-57, approval of contract issued to Gatewood Crane Services for on-call crane services for flood maintenance control facilities, as lowest responsible bid, amount of $24,508.
Motion.
Motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
I have a question, Chairman.
Not yet.
Chester?
Oh, there it is. How many on-call calls are considered for the $24,500?
So there was a variety of different size cranes and as
Oh,
part of
okay.
this quotation. And so this was looking at cranes that are to pull pumps at our facilities. If we have to pull a pump at the quarry, we need a larger 70+ ton crane, which is more expensive. However, if we have to pull a pump at a different facility, like our Wooddale Itasca Reservoir, we can use a smaller crane. And so we use the most cost-efficient crane for the project we need it for.
Okay, so you're limited to so many calls.
Mhm.
And that's it. Now you get charged extra now.
Well, we would, but we'd also have to come back to the committee and board if we utilize more than our
Okay,
contract.
very good. Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion on FIR 22922, additional appropriation, conservation, recreation fund, wetland mitigation, Oak Meadows, the amount of $53,788.
So moved.
Second.
Your motion is second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let's see, is there any old business? No, any new business? No, again, Sarah and the staff want to thank everybody, the committee, you guys really put a lot of work into this, and it's, again, shows our professionalism. I mean, they came to talk to me last week about it, and I think Mary had about 40 spreadsheets on breakdowns in any way you could look at this ARPA funding. So they really went above and beyond on this. So I appreciate all your guys' efforts. Hearing no new business, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.